Let's see how well Rampardos fares in the Rebel Clash format. Welcome back everyone to more from the Sable Eyes. I'm Mitch and today we're going to take another look at Rampardos. We saw this one in our last series, our Sword and Shield set, and again we're going to take another look at it. There are a ton of Pokemon that Rampardos can take a one-shot knockout on. Wild Crash is such a cool attack. It's not quite as good as it used to be, but it's still definitely worth investigating, and I think that there's a pretty solid list coming your way, so we'll test it out. Before we do that, thank you very much to the people who have subscribed recently. If you haven't, or maybe you think you have, but you haven't quite yet, we're just appearing up on your feed for whatever reason, then please consider doing that. Only about 30% of people who watch our content are subscribed. It only takes a second to click the button, it makes me feel good, and you can always unsubscribe if you would like. There's no pressure at all. So, without further ado, we'll take a look at the lists. Here's Rampardos. If you didn't know what it does, we've got two attacks on this Pokemon that are pretty solid. Wild Crash is the main one that we're going to focus on. For 3 fighting energy, a little bit expensive, we can just take a straight knockout on one of our opponent's basic Pokemon. So that's 3 prizes for us on things like ADPs and Pikaroms. It's not going to be able to take a knockout on a Dragapult VMAX, because that is, of course, a stage 2. Well, it's not a basic. It's a stage 1. Sorry. So we're not going to be able to deal with that. But everything else in the format realistically is that basic Pokemon. So we can take those prizes there. But for anything that's not a basic Pokemon, we can use Clean Hit with 1 fighting energy. Does 60. And then if our opponent's Pokemon is an evolution type, words are really struggling to come out here. I'm just so excited about these fossils. If we hit an evolution Pokemon, it's going to be 60 plus 60, 120 damage. It's pretty solid. So, worst case scenario, we go up against Dragapult VMAX. We can hit into it for 120. Not sure if Dragapult actually has fighting resistance or not. It could very well do. And it's not going to be able to one-shot us, because we've got 150 HP, so there's no chance that our opponent's Dragapults will be one-hitting. They'll have to hit into us twice. Apart from that, the list is built around these kind of fossils. We've got a couple of other fossils that we're going to try and get out with our Pokemon Research Lab. Obviously, the 4-4 Rampardos line with Cranidos, but we also have an Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl very, very strong with that Wild Dive GX attack, 50 times the amount of energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, and Primal Winds can sometimes really make life difficult for some decks. If your opponent's active basic Pokemon is trying to attack, they're going to need an extra colorless energy. So that's pretty solid. 120 on Boulder Crush, probably not going to get to that because we don't realistically have the energy for it. We also have Omastar, which is a card that not many decks have been playing recently. Fossil Bind is a really, really good way to try and slow down some of those big decks in the format. As long as we have fewer Pokemon in play, which is very easy for us to do, our opponents can't play any item cards. So, we're going up against Dragapult, we hit into them for 120, or however much it does. They're not going to be able to scoop up their Zigzagoons if we have this Fossil Bind in play, so we might be able to cheese ourselves a victory from there. We obviously have 4 Jirachis in this list. No Dene, we are not really going to be relying on that so much. We're going to instead be hoping to find some of our Roses when our Pokemon get knocked out so that we can try and maintain our attacks from there. As for the rest of our supporters, whilst we're down there, we've got 4 Research, 2 Marnie, and of course 2 Boss's Orders. Boss's Orders makes this Rampardos so much more threatening. If there are any Pokemon on the opponent's bench that are worth 3 prizes, they can't hide them. If they're basic Pokemon, we'll knock them out with Wild Crash. So that's pretty solid. When it comes to Pokemon Search, we've got Quick Ball, which is obviously a card that every deck is playing, and 3 copies of Evolution Incense. Evo Incense is actually really, really good in this particular deck because it's going to help us find all of our fossils. Every single one of these Pokemon is a stage 1 or 2. So realistically, there could be an argument actually to go something like this, but we've got the Quick Balls because we want to be able to try and find our Jirachis as quickly as possible because we want to get as many chances to find that Pokemon Research Lab as we can. So might be worth switching those around. In the video that we're about to see though, it will be a 4-3 line. We also have 1 copy of Unidentified Fossil, so if we don't get out that Research Lab, we can evolve our Pokemon that way. And like I said, we've got Jirachi, so Switch and Escape Board are going to be our go-to retreat options. Now, we've got to find a couple of things to get this deck to work. It's a very awkward one. We need energy, so Energy Spinner will be able to search out some of our fighting energy. We have 9 of those in the deck. We also have Energy Switch, so if our opponent doesn't knock us out, maybe we can switch our opponent out of the active. We can maybe power up a Wild Crash very quickly. We also have Karate Belt. We're going to fall behind, so we're probably going to need this to get our attack off as quickly as possible. And we also have Super Boost Energy to be able to power up our attack in one turn, provided, of course, that we have, 3 Stage 2 Pokemon in play. So we're going to need to get, 2 Rampardos and an Omastar into play to be able to use that Super Boost Energy effectively. But, that shouldn't be too difficult for us to do. We do have the 4 copies of Research Lab. We also have 1 Martial Arts Dojo, so if you do need to attack with something other than the Rampardos Wild Crash attack, then you can get some extra damage out of that. We also have a Reset Stamp. To slow our opponent down, we want to take knockouts quickly as we can whilst slowing our opponents down, because the more time they take to win the game, the better chance we have. So, it's an interesting deck. It's, again, not the best deck in the world. We are very, very far away from top-tier content at the moment, but it is certainly fun, and there's nothing quite like getting those 3 fighting energy, attaching to the Rampardos, and taking a big knockout. We'll see if we can do that on the ladder right now. Alright, it is game time. Again, thank you very much to Sam for recording this content for us. It's been pretty hectic at the end of the term for me, so thank you to the guys for getting around it and playing some of these videos for us. We've won the toss. We're going to start now. We've only got 1 set of basic Pokemon in the deck. That is Jirachi, so we are set and raring to go here. We are going to need to find another one, though, if we do want to get ourselves going. That Escape Board is really, really strong, so we'll grab that and we can Quick Ball. I'll get rid of an energy. Could have got rid of the other Quick Ball as well. We can just grab the Jirachi and stick that into play. Possibly could have even used the second Quick Ball to thin out another one there. Well, Stellarish, we've got to find our stadium. It doesn't look like we've got it here. We can grab another Quick Ball to go for another Jirachi, potentially. We'll chuck away the 3rd Quick Ball and grab ourselves our 3rd Jirachi. And now, hopefully, when we retreat into this Jirachi, we can find our stadium. This is the most important Stellar Wish. There it is. So we can get ourselves a couple of Stage 1 fossil Pokemon here. It's not ideal that we aren't going to be able to attach an energy. We could attach a fighting and hope that we find our stellar, not our stellar, our, what do you call it? The one energy switch? I'm the one making the video. You're sitting there trying to understand what's going on in my head. Anyway, we got the fossil stadium out. This is a disaster. We got the fossil stadium out, so we're all good to go, and our opponent's actually got a Jinx in the active here, so we could be looking at something like a Spiritomb deck, which on the surface doesn't seem super great for us. I mean, we're not going to be able to get lots of value out of our Rampardos, but I will note that Rampardos does attack for 60 HP. We could even attack with Cranidos here and potentially get knockouts as long as we get that fighting energy attached. So we'll see whether or not we're able to get something done here. I don't think this matchup's quite as bad as I'm thinking that it might be. Our opponent choosing to Sycamore there, or Professor's Research rather, than using the Dedenne. Dedenne probably not a great Pokemon to have in play against a fighting type deck like this. I have also noticed we've been playing a lot of fighting type decks recently, so obviously it's one of those ones where they're all kind of tier 2 or 3, they're all hovering around the mark and doing reasonably well. That Corkscrew Punch is very tempting. Going to deal 30 damage, so we could potentially get a knockout on a Spiritomb if they do choose to take a knockout here. But for us, I think we're in a pretty strong spot just to attach to the Cranidos and then research. Looks like they've got a Marnie for next turn, so we are probably in a pretty good position, provided that we are able to get a couple of things going here. Don't really need the Energy Spinner, we can just attach to the Cranidos and then research. The Super Boost is probably not going to be the way to go. We don't realistically have that many options when it comes to Stage 2s just yet. We're probably in a spot where it would be best for us to just get the stadium. You can really see Sam here having a think about this Super Boost. Might be the option for us. I'm not a massive fan of that, but it doesn't really matter. It just means we won't be attacking this turn. We do find the stadium though, so that's pretty good. We've got the Pokemon Research Lab, so we will be able to end the turn finding 2 more Stage 1 Pokemon, but I don't know if you've noticed or not, we've actually got Cranidoses in our hands, so we're only going to be able to find 1 off of the stadium. Those 2 Cranidos in the hand are very frustrating indeed, so we'll see what we get off of the Stellar Wish. Hopefully it's a switch or something similar. We've got a research there. We might grab the switch though, just force our opponent to play the Marnie, and we could even switch into a second Jirachi. No real reason to do that, but I mean, you know, we may as well. We can grab a Rosa here if they choose to knock out our Jirachi. We could use that, but we will be expecting our opponent to use Marnie next turn. A bit of a shame we didn't find our 1 copy of the Fossil. What's going on? I don't understand. I can't figure out how to speak tonight. Sam just doing a little bit of thinking here, trying to figure out whether there was a chance he could have taken a knockout. Unfortunately, no. That Super Boost will only work if you've got multiple Stage 2s in play. So we need to get a little bit more into our setup before we use that. We'll use the stadium, grab ourselves a second Cranidos, and we should be fine. These 2 in our hand will get sent back into the deck with the Marnie that our opponent plays, you would presume. Worst case scenario for our opponent is that we take a knockout next turn on a Spiritomb, which would be very frustrating for them. Although we don't want to be behind, we potentially want to try and find Aerodactyl, which could be really, really good in this matchup to stop our opponent from attacking with 1 energy. That would be really, really good. We'll see whether that is possible. Our opponent got the Jirachi with the Escape Board on it, so they'll be able to Stellar Wish and try and find whatever it is that they need. It doesn't look like there's anything off of the top there, and then opting to play Marnie. Possibly could have Marnied first, unless of course they had a bunch of different stuff. There is the Omastar, which is good. I mean, we don't have access to the ability because our opponent doesn't have as many Pokemon on the field as we do, but they are potentially going to put themselves into a position where they can get a knockout this turn, and they put a couple of damage counters onto this Spiritomb. They're doing 70 damage now, so as long as they find an energy, they should be A-okay. It looks like they're actually going into another Jirachi here, so maybe looking for another card to try and get themselves going. They've got a Quick Ball, so we might see a Dedenne come out from our opponent here to try and find energy, and that would be great for us because it would potentially turn the tide a bit. But no, it looks like they're just going to go, okay, we'll sit back and allow you to do whatever it is that you're doing, and we've got no energy to attack, so it's not a massive problem. Now, this is a really, really good hand for us. We can do a whole bunch of stuff with this. Chuck down the Karate Belts. We could potentially throw down another Cranidos if we'd like. Sam attaching the Karate Belt to the Omastar there, which is a very optimistic play. We've got another Rampardos, which is really, really good. This Quick Ball, though, probably useless for us. I think we're in the spot now where we might need to just go for the attack on the Jirachi. We've got the extra energy from Super Boost, so if we do find Switch, we will be able to Wild Crash. We might need to just take the risk and hope for the best. We will need to find the Switch or the Escape Board off of this Jirachi, though, so could be worth using something like the Evolution Incense to thin out and then get the Quick Ball away, but obviously never punished for doing that kind of stuff. Never get punished for not sequencing properly. That's okay. Oh, he's just going to go into the Jirachi anyway. Oh, look at this. Okay, cool. We're just going to grab the Switch, I guess. We'll just use that extra resource, and even though we didn't have to, but that's fine. Whatever. It's not a problem. I'm not upset. Anyway, we'll see how Sam opts to go here. Could potentially just be a Research Lab turn as well. Just goes for the pass. So there you go, all for nothing that turn. And now we've given our opponent a chance to get cracking here. Might have been worth taking that knockout. I think the Rampardos would have done it. We've got 3 stage 2s in play, so that energy would have done the job. But that's alright, not a problem. Our opponent potentially stuck in the active with this Jirachi. The issue is that they've got an extra turn now, so we don't want that to happen. We don't want our opponent to have too much going for them. They are getting all of their building spites off. They've been able to set up their Spiritombs to attack quite easily. And here comes the Stellar Wish. It just depends on whether they've got an energy or not. If they have an energy, then that would be great. They'll take a knockout and put our bench size lower than theirs. They won't be able to play any items, so that would be beautiful. We could potentially Marnie next turn if we find one to try and really hammer home our advantage. We're kind of in this weird stalemate now, though, where we want our opponent to take the first prize and they don't really want to. So we'll see what the choice is. It's looking like it might be another pass here from our opponent, which is pretty interesting. Yes, there's the pass. So we might actually need to go for the attack here, because there's realistically nothing else that we need to do. I mean, looking at this hand, if we could get an attack off on the Spiritomb on the bench, that would be great. But we don't really have to. We'll quick ball, grab ourselves a Jirachi out of the deck. We don't need to have that. We can just get rid of it. We can probably use the Incense as well if we wanted. A Marnie, that's a pretty good card to get. We could use that, reduce our opponent's hand size significantly, switch into the Jirachi with the Escape Board, and we will be a-okay to get going here. But yeah, we probably do need to reduce that hand size. Sam's really thinking here, what is the plan going to be? We're going to Stellar Wish. Stellar Wish will find a boss. Okay, cool. So that's actually a really, really big opportunity for us. We could potentially take a knockout on the Spiritomb that has 3 damage counters on it and the extra Hustle Belt. Or we could maybe even gust out a different Spiritomb if we'd like. No reason to go for anything other than the most powerful one, though. And then we can retreat into one of our Rampardos and use Clean Hit. Now, this is an interesting retreat. I think the best thing to do is to use the one with the boost energy, just because we could potentially power up and attack with the Rampardos. But this is perfectly acceptable. We're away here. We've got ourselves all that we realistically need, and now regretting not attacking last turn. If we had have attacked last turn, then we would be 2 prizes in front, so that's okay. You live and learn, it's not a problem. Our opponent, massive hand though. Surely they have everything that they need. They've got another Spiritomb here, which is really big for them. Getting their attackers going is very important, but most importantly for us is we managed to get our attackers attacking first. So as long as we can keep maintaining those attackers, we should be fine. Just a little bit easier for our opponent to get their attackers going. Obviously, 1 energy on a basic Pokemon is relatively easy to do, wouldn't you be surprised? So, you know, hey, it's whatever. 4 damage counters on the Spiritomb, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get the knockout on the Rampardos without a Hustle Belt. We'll wait and see. If there is an option for our opponent, that would be a good one. They're grabbing ourselves another Spiritomb here, and they might have just missed out. Maybe they are going for the Jirachi here because they don't have access to that knockout, and instead of giving up their attacker, they're just going, we're going to move on, we're just going to let it go. You can see our opponent doing a lot of their item playing, very smart. There is the Hustle Belt, so now if they've got another switch, I think they're going to be able to get a knockout, but they will need to really... Oh no, they don't have the switch by the looks of it. They're just moving some of that energy off onto a second Spiritomb. I was about to say, if they did move it onto the one with the energy and the Hustle Belt, then that would have been a really big risk, because if we were able to take a knockout, obviously we would be able to, then it wouldn't be a problem. So they've put down another Spiritomb now. They're going to be building their Spite yet again, and then moving in with a Marnie. Now, they've got more Pokemon on the bench than we do, so we are locking our opponents up now with that Omastar, which is really, really good. There's the Anguish Cry, 160, and away we go. My maths was a little bit off there. I thought they needed some extra damage to get that 160. That's not true. The Hustle Belt does the job. Okay, so now, what are we going to do here? We really, really need to get another Rampardos down. I mean, we can attack this turn. That's not a problem. But we really need to be able to get ourselves attacking and to stop our opponent from getting those big turns off. Now, if we could find ourselves our Fossil, then that would be really, really good. But worst case scenario, we can just... Reset Stamp looks like a pretty good card. Actually, no, Rosa could be an even better card. That could have found ourselves everything that we needed. I think actually attaching the Fighting Energy to our Omastar could be a good move here. Looks like Sam going for the Rampardos. If we attach to the Omastar, we could potentially get ourselves an attack off quite easily, but No, we're not going to do that. We're going to Marnie and hope that our opponent doesn't get what they need. And then they've got a whole bunch of stuff here. But if we just retreat into the Rampardos and attack, then Fossil Bind will stop them from getting what they need to get a knockout, or at least I think it will. It'll make it very, very awkward anyway. So let's clean hit. We'll see how we go. There is a chance. That they could do it, but with 4 cards in hand, and they're obviously not going to be able to play any items, it might be a little bit difficult for them to get themselves all of the things that they need to get a knockout this turn. We'll see. We'll see whether they do. They've grabbed themselves another Marnie here, so we might be seeing a fresh 4 cards for us, 5 for our opponent. Looks like we've got ourselves Cranidos and the Reset Stamp. I'm starting to think that the Fossil is prized. Could very well be. If that's the case, then we might want to get ourselves a couple of prizes pretty quickly, just because we will obviously need to get going and get another attacker here. You can see all that damage being moved across onto the Spiritomb, and I actually think that this is going to be a knockout here, and this is really, really rough for us, because if they can get themselves a knockout, which it looks like they can, then we are not going to have another attacker lined up, and that's why I thought that maybe attaching to the Omastar would be a good idea. If we had the energy on there, we could have maybe attacked into this Spiritomb with the Omastar and created a situation where we at least had something to do. But, of course, the Cranidos could have been an attacker. We just don't have them on the field of play. It's not just there. And, yeah, now we're in a really awkward spot because I don't think we have any attackers that we could realistically use. We wanted that bite from the Omastar this turn, and we just didn't get it. Should have attached down there. We've just been going too quickly. Now the attachment goes, it's a bit late, and Sam goes for the research. We still haven't got ourselves that, that fossil yet, so it doesn't look like it exists, which is a bit of a concern. We're grabbing another Evo Incense instead of the boss's orders. I'm not sure if that's the correct use there, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We've got the Stellar Wish here. We can go for the Rosa. So if we get ourselves the Fossil Research off now, we are guaranteed to be able to find at least the Rampardos next turn. So we've got ourselves an attacker, but whether it is enough to win this game is going to be the big question. They can't play down items. That's the big deal. They're not going to be able to get their Hustle Belt on. Means that they're going to have to really, really try and find those damage counters. I mean, they're available to them. It's just going to be very, very awkward, presuming, of course, that we can get ourselves attacking. We are in a good spot. We've got the Rosa to get ourselves the energy next turn. We've only got 3 Pokemon in play, so it's not a massive deal. But it is looking very, very difficult here. You could be in a pretty rough spot. They're now going in front on the prizes, so they will be able to attack. We've still got the Fossil Bind, though. We've potentially got the out to take the knockout on the Spiritomb, so we'll see how it goes, but the Cranidos is obviously pretty strong with the 30 damage. That's going to be able to take a knockout on one of these Spiritombs. Worst case scenario. So it looks like it's our turn now. Really wish we hadn't have played that Reset Stamp. It would have been great to have been able to play that later on in the game. Sam's doing a lot of thinking here. I think it's probably just promote the Jirachi. That seems like the obvious decision, because we're just going to be able to use the Incense to get ourselves the Rampardos. No, we're going straight into the Cranidos here. Managed to top deck the boss, so that's pretty good. I will grab Rampardos, Marnie, and some energy. The rest of our deck is just 3 energy cards. That is spectacular stuff. I don't know if I've ever seen a deck like that. It means that we're at least guaranteed to find something pretty good here. So now 3 cards left. We've got the Marnie, so it's not the end of the world. The clean hit will take the knockout, and hopefully we can find ourselves one of our attackers, preferably something like the Fossil. If we could find that, that would be great. The Fossil would get us into a Aerodactyl, which is also in the prizes, but no, we've got the Fossil Lab. Oh, this is all very, very nerve-wracking, because now they could potentially take a knockout on our Rampardos with this Spiritomb. If they did that, then we would be in a really rough spot, but we'd at least be able to attack with our Omastar, which would be pretty solid. Looks like they're going for the boss's orders here, so maybe choosing to take the knockout on that Omastar now, which is a pretty good idea. It means that they are going to be able to play items next turn, but do they have enough attackers left? I mean, we've taken 3 knockouts on 3 Spiritombs. Is there enough left for our opponent to be able to get the win here? I'm not entirely sure that there is. I mean, we've got Rampardos ready to attack. We're going to go for our 3rd prize here. Putting the Jirachi into the active this time. Good move. We've got our 3rd prize here. We're going to attach an energy to this Rampardos. I don't think we really even need to do that. And Marnie is an option for us. It'll give us 2 energy plus 3 cards from our current hand just to fill our deck back up. They're not bad ones. If we want a Stellar Wish, we can, but I probably don't know if I don't know if we need to take anything. Worth taking the boss, though, for sure. We don't want to get caught in a situation where we don't have access to the cards that we need. And now the Rampardos coming down, the clean hit. We'll take the knockout on the last Spiritomb. Okay, so we're in a pretty okay, we're in an interesting position. An okay position, an interesting one. Our opponent isn't going to be able to take a knockout with a Spiritomb here unless they can put some Spiritombs back in the deck. And I don't think that Spiritomb decks really play that many recycling cards. They tend to just play different attackers. It looks like they're going to be going with the Jinx here, which is pretty impressive. I think there's some text on that Jinx that says that we might be paralyzed. Good thing that we've got the switch in hand, because Wild Crash will be able to take the knockout when we switch from the active. There is the attract smacks. If they flip heads on their coin there, then they might be able to do some damage to us. They're going through their Jirachis, trying to find everything that they need. They're grabbing themselves Hustle Belt now. So, you never know. We might actually come out on top on this one. Maybe the Omastar saved us a little bit. There's 30, and they flip heads, so we are paralyzed. Good thing we've got the switch. The energy attachment and the switch will get us into the Jirachi. We can then retreat out of it. We don't even need to really Stellar Wish for anything. There's nothing that we realistically need. May as well grab another switch just in case. And then we can just attack with Wild Crash, because Jinx is a basic Pokemon. So we can just knock it out. Wild Crash, bang, easy as you like. And now our opponent in a very, very awkward position. I actually don't know if they can win from here. They might be able to grab themselves a basic Pokemon of some description, but whether they can do 120 is the real question. They're going with Ordinary Rod, so they do have a way of getting those Spiritombs back into the deck. They're actually going with Buzzmosa and Dedenne, so maybe they could get an attack off with Buzzmosa to win the game. Maybe they could take a knockout on the Jirachi potentially for a couple of prizes. I'm not sure. We will see. This is pretty intense stuff, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. This Jirachi goes for the Stellar Wish. They have to get the knockout this turn on the Rampardos or win the game. It's as simple as that. They've got Acrobike, which they're going to play. They're looking for a supporter of some description. They've got 10 cards left, and they're going to look at 2. Didn't get it, so that's going to be victory for Rampardos. Well, there you go. I mean, going into it, I wanted to play against the tag team deck, take some easy prizes or something like that, but Rampardos can actually beat Spiritomb as well. Who'd have thunk it? We managed to get across the line despite a couple of questionable decisions throughout. That's okay, though. We managed to get the victory, and that is all that matters. Thanks very much to Sam for recording this one, and thanks to you for coming along. We always appreciate having you guys around to watch these videos. If you like them and you'd like to subscribe, then click the button that's just here to do that. Over on this side, we have some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, as well as a playlist down the bottom for more profiles from Rebel Clash. We're coming up on our Darkness Ablaze content. It's coming soon, and we're also looking for more coaching stuff. So if you've got a video that you want to send in, feel free to do it. Facebook and Twitter at @thesabilize_YT. Anyway, without further ado, we'll end it there. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time for more from the Sablize. Bye.